everybody, welcome to my video on a bioactive crested gecko enclosure. Woo! Who hasn't done an enclosure video on crested geckos? But hey, I think it turned out nice, so I wanted to share regardless, and share things that could have gone better, that nobody warned me. So maybe someone else can take some advice. First, we always start out with custom background. This time, I decided to go with the Gorilla Glue method instead of the spray foam and then carving and silicone, etc. And I like that it's all one step, it's easy, it's quick. I like the idea, but I didn't do a very good job. Every video that I saw regarding this type of background was always like, it expands so much, you have to constantly press it down, you don't use too much. Well, I used way too little, so if you're gonna make one, use more than me that I did right now, because it was falling apart before I could even finish the enclosure. It looks good right now, but you'll see. My life starts to fall apart near the end of the video, but we move on. And it's gonna be okay. Next, I just add a drainage layer. I'm just using rocks as my drainage layer because they're easily accessible to me. But I know a lot of people do not use a drainage layer for crested gecko enclosures, and that's fine. Do whatever makes you happy, whatever works for you. I just know I'm not the greatest with plants, so I wanted to give them the best chance of survival and added a drainage layer, but whatever makes you happy. Next, I just made the substrate. It's about 2 parts of organic topsoil and 1 part play sand, just to hold more humidity than my usual substrate that I make, which is normally 50-50 for my more arid enclosures. But since this is more tropical, up the topsoil, decrease the sand. I made way more buckets than this, but you see me make 1 bucket, you see me make them all. And then we just add it to the enclosure. Once all of the substrate is mixed and added, then I add in my mix-ins, is what I like to call them. It's basically just moss. This is just a reptile moss. It's advertised for reptiles, you can buy it at any pet store. And some sphagnum moss. This is from Josh's Frogs, but you can buy it anywhere, even for plants. And I also added some leaf litter to be mixed in, just to add some more texture to the actual soil, along with a bioactive booster from Josh's Frogs. The Biodude sells something similar as well. Since my substrate is homemade, it just gives the substrate a boost for your bioactive. Who would have guessed, right? Kind of crazy. But now it's time for the cleanup crew, my favorite part. First I had some Springtails. These are also from Josh's Frogs, but I bought them forever ago. I just breed them now. And I added some charcoal along with them just to help them out. And they're the cutest little things in the entire world. I'm obsessed with them. It's truly my favorite part of bioactives. I love the cleanup crew. But you know what's even cuter than the Springtails? The Isopods. And I got my Isopods from my friend at Poison Ivy's Jungle on Instagram. She's the sweetest. She has the greatest Isopods, greatest bioactive stuff in general. She's lovely. I got the Lotto mix for this enclosure because they're super sturdy and do well in semi-humid environments. And look at how cute this one is with the spot. I'm in love. And then your substrate is done. I also added another layer of leaf litter and moss to give the isopods some safety and food. Then I do the hardscaping, which is just adding the wood pieces. I have this nice piece of driftwood that branches out in several directions. It's beautiful, I love it. Along with this little twisty wood branch. I don't know the exact name for it. I got both of these pieces from a reptile show, but I know that the twisty wood branch is really popular right now and people always want to know where I got it from. And they do sell ones on chewy.com as well, so I'll link those in the description. Next is the fun part, the plants. We all love them. I first am adding just this pothos that I propagated. I have tons of pothos plants just as house plants, so I always have propagations laying around. So my plan for this was to use that cork piece on the background, the upper right piece, as a planter for a hanging plant to kind of have coverage in the top section of the enclosure, since most of the plants are covering the bottom. So I made sure that when I was making the background there was enough space in between the cork and the background to add soil and then the plant, of course. And it allows for drainage as well because the cork doesn't touch the background on the bottom either. It's just big enough to hold the dirt and for any excess water to drain out. So it works really well. I do wish it was way lower. I made it way too high. The background in general was quite a pitfall on my end, but it's okay. I just think it's a little bit too close to the plant light. But overall, the idea is cute. I think it looks nice for right now. And I might as well mention now, since I mentioned the plant light, that I'm using the Bioactive LED strip plant light. It'll be in the description as well. It seems to work well. I have two of his lights now, and they both work really well. The plants seem to do nicely. Here is a montage of the rest of the plants that I've been using. Just make sure when you're using plants, always rinse off the roots as well as you can, the plant as well as you can. If you buy them from somewhere that you think may use pesticides, make sure you treat it for that type of stuff. There are tons of videos to watch regarding that. But first I add this Calathea. Look at the root balls. I love fun roots, but this plant is honestly my pride and joy right now. She never does me wrong. I'm not the greatest with plants yet. I am okay, but this plant has never failed me. If you want a sturdy plant in your Crested Gecko Bioactive, get Calatheas. They're beautiful. I love the colors. It adds really great dimension with the pattern and the purple underneath to kind of stand out amongst the sea of green that most bioactives are. So I love her. She's beautiful. This plant did not do so hot. It's my fault. I went out of town for a weekend and it died under someone else's care, but it's okay. I also added a umbrella tree. I split up my umbrella plant into a few different pieces to add more foliage and coverage to the rest of the enclosure that felt bare to me. Just to, you know, the big leafy plants are cool, but they don't add that jungle feel that I was aiming for this enclosure, and I had to trim it down because it's far too big. But we're just putting plants where plants should be. It's really just up to your own liking. There's really no strategy to what I'm doing right now. It's just fun plant stuff, you know. It's the stuff we signed up for as reptile keepers, the fun stuff. Then I just misted down the whole enclosure, making sure that the plants are nice and watered since they're in a new environment. You don't want them to be super shocked, you know. So then this is where I felt like my life was breaking down because the background is totally falling apart at this point. I started to have a gnat infestation. This is like right when I came back home from the weekend. My pothos was dying. Everything felt like it was falling apart. Side note, if you have a gnat infestation, use mosquito bits. They're a lifesaver. Most people don't know that. Anyway, the enclosure is done. You can see that that little plant is also dead. Never leave your pets. Never leave your pets. I just have anxiety. I'm sure your pets will be fine, but my enclosure doesn't look as happy as it could have been if I didn't leave for that weekend. It's okay though. In general, I think it turned out pretty well, and I'm still proud of myself. And knowing all of this, you'll be able to make a way better bioactive enclosure. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Life happens. This video was a little bit more chaotic than normal, but I'm sorry and I appreciate you. Jupiter seems to enjoy it regardless, and you'll see her in a second. She's kind of awkward in this clip. She doesn't really seem to know what she wants to do here, but I promise she likes it. She just is kind of awkward. That's just who she is. Thank you for watching. Bye.